criteria number one is team, criteria number two is team, and criteria number three is team as well. You have to fall in love with the founders a little bit and need to have a strong conviction and belief that whatever happens, they will do their utmost best and everything in their power to try and be successful as a startup founder.
Welcome to the Startup Passport by Frontwalker. Today I'm joined by Sjoerd van Berkel. Thank you very much for joining. You're the co-founder and operator of the Dutch Operator Fund.
Correct.
Thank you very much for joining. And can you tell us a little bit about what the fund does?
Sure. So I have an entrepreneurial background. Founded my first company when I was 18. Started actually 3 companies and made a partial exit 4 years ago. And I'm currently active as a mentor, angel investor, and involved in education around entrepreneurship at Tilburg University and RSM. I invest on my personal behalf as well as through Dutch Operator Fund, which is an initiative of 7 Dutch angel investors who collectively invest in promising Dutch startups.
And well, you said yourself you have a background in entrepreneurship, being an entrepreneur yourself. Can you tell us a little bit, just slightly, about the companies that you founded before?
Yeah, I think most significant to mention is a company called Fit for Me, active in food supplements, medical food supplements to be precise. And we support the quality of life of people living with obesity, focused on people that have had weight loss surgery. In the medical world, it's called bariatric surgery. And now also people that are on a weight loss journey with medication or conservative therapies.
And how successful were the previous companies that you founded?
Well, my first company, I was actually selling ice cream, which was a lot of fun, but definitely not scalable. I was selling ice cream on a few boats in the lakes surrounding the area where I grew up, which was for me the best job ever because I was making my money as a student in my swimming shorts with mainly happy customers. Learned my first lessons as an entrepreneur, but I also realized soon that it was fun but not scalable. So that was a business aspect I would like to see in the next venture. Fit for Me was and is still scalable, and currently we support the quality of life of 200,000 people on the globe. And our CFO recently calculated that every second 2 of our supplements are taken somewhere by a person on this earth. So
that's very impressive.
Yeah.
And are you the sole founder on this, or do you have a co-founder as well?
No, I was lucky enough to meet my co-founder during my studies here in Rotterdam. We had a lot of things in common, both a student company, and I think same values in life and a similar family background. So we joined forces in 2006, and it was a happy business marriage, as I would like to call it.
So that's one of the advantages that you had from being. Were you an entrepreneurship student as well, or did you study something else?
I studied both entrepreneurship and new business venture, as it was called back then, and finance and investments. And it was in that master, I can't recall the course honestly, but that I met my co-founder named Simon.
Yeah, and now that you're still involved in education around entrepreneurship, there's always a little bit of a debate. If can you teach entrepreneurship, or is it just something that is it a mindset thing? Is it the thing that you kind of just like learning by doing, and you just have to throw yourself out there and do it? So what's your stance on this around like academia and education on entrepreneurship?
Good question and an interesting debate. And yes, you definitely have these exceptions of founders that quit school quite early on and build massive unicorn companies. Personally, my studies brought me a lot. Like I said, I mentioned my co-founder. Built up a great network, which was valuable back then and still is. And it also teaches you, I think, a toolkit that left or right you will use during your journey as an entrepreneur. So, if you can go for it, I would say go for it. This program was designed for me in the sense that it was highly relevant, I would say.
Well, now you're not only an entrepreneur, you're also an investor, as you said before, through the fund, but then also personally. So when you were thinking about making investments, what do you look at? Of course, you look at the company, about the idea, but then you also look at the entrepreneur, I assume. So how do you weigh it in terms of, this is how much I focus on the business and my belief in the business idea, but then also how much is about believing in the person behind the business, in the entrepreneur himself or herself?
I would say criteria number 1 is team. Criteria number 2 is team. and criterion number 3 is team as well, which is maybe a boring answer. But the longer I'm active as an angel and the more investments that I do, the stronger that belief is, honestly. And I sometimes say you have to fall in love with the founders a little bit and need to have a strong conviction and belief that whatever happens, they will do their utmost best and everything in their power to try and be successful as a startup founder. Becoming an entrepreneur is an interesting choice in the sense that the odds are against you, right? 70% of all startups fail. So you could argue you need to be a little bit naive or mad to actually take the step. But yeah, you're looking for that 100% grit and commitment to try and make it work. Yeah.
And with a fund, are you specifically investing in any specific like industries, or is it generally pretty broad as long as you're convinced in your case of the team then, of course?
Well, we have a thesis like every angel syndicate or fund does. So we invest with the fund then only in Dutch startups, younger than 5 years, and they have to be active in either the tech or the creative industry. We don't do hardware, so we focus on anything else, but we invest in telehealth to space tech and everything in between. So it's quite broad, I would say. Yeah.
And then how has your personal experience been with failure as an entrepreneur? Because obviously that's, you just said it, 70% of entrepreneurs fail. That's something that's most likely is going to come up. So did you have any experience with failing as an entrepreneur, or potentially now also as an angel investor? You could potentially still fail in that sense if you put your money on the wrong company.
Yeah, so let's say under the umbrella of Fit For Me, we tried to launch another brand in oncology, and that didn't work out as planned. I think the product market fit was just not ideal, so I should and could have validated that earlier on. So that was another lesson learned. With the fund, we can happily say that so far so good. Out of our 6 investments, all companies are alive and doing well, and even extremely well in some cases. So yeah, so far so good, I would say.
And overall, and also to conclude the interview, what is your general stance about, and that sounds like a pretty broad question, but about like entrepreneurship specifically in the Netherlands? Because sometimes there are also, again, broader debates about, entrepreneurship in the Netherlands, entrepreneurship in America, for example, because there people usually say it's very much more embedded in the society itself. We talked about, especially when you talk about failing, then often failing is seen, well, as a failure here in the Netherlands or in Europe. While in America, often people say, well, people tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, it's good that you tried, and then, take your losses, but then also take it onto the next company and then take your experiences from there. So do you have an opinion on that?
I think the Netherlands has a great ecosystem to become an entrepreneur, and yes, you have the debates where you whether you could raise a big series of funding, etc. But I think if you are building a great company, you can do it. Quantware, I think a couple of weeks ago, is a good example of that. We have great universities. There could be more capital provided by, for example, angel investors in the early stage. I believe there is a gap there. But left or right, if you want to become an entrepreneur and have the mindset to actually do it, that is not going to hold you back like people that are not supporting it. So it's becoming, I would say, more and more popular nowadays to do it, which is cool to see.
And you're certainly a very positive example of that. So thank you very much for sharing your journey, Sjoerd, and for joining the podcast.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys.